You're right, Amya. I hope you're all keeping well. It's time for another Isolate and Create. It's nothing special, it's kind of basically following on with what I've been doing for the last few days. I've made another 2 trophies for Keemstar. I didn't film the entire process because we've basically seen that before, but I just wanted to keep you updated with how I'm trying to stay creative, and I'm hoping that it'll inspire you to stay creative as well. Everything that's going on, the more that we can stay creative, I think the more we can keep our minds busy, and the sooner this will hopefully all be over and we can get back to some kind of normal. But anyway, on to the project. I started off by applying some self-adhesive paper to act as a template, so I printed off the 2 logos, the first one being Warzone Wednesday and the second one being Keem Park. With the template applied, I could carve away the details. Now I use a router to do this. You can do it by hand, but obviously a router's a hell of a lot quicker. I use a profile bit for all the finer detail. It's a really tapered V style bit. I will leave a link to it in the description if you're interested, but it works really well and it gives me a really fine detail. If I adjust the depth a little bit shallower, it'll give me a much finer line. The deeper I go, it'll give me a much wider line. So first step was to make sure all the outlines was all routed away and I could see the picture a little bit clearer then. Then I used the same profile bit to try and remove as much of the bulk around the finer areas while I could. A straight bit would struggle in these areas, so it was important to get it cleared out the way before I move on to the straight bit. With the straight bit installed, I can remove away the vast majority of the bulk now. These are the wider spaces that the straight bit can get into, gives a much nicer finish on the bottom, and it just gets it out a lot quicker. The next job was to cut out the shapes on the bandsaw. I did this pretty rough, making sure that I could see the actual line to the logos itself, so I can sand to the line later on. I did do some shaping on the Keem Park logo to try and make it look a bit more like a hand controller for a game console, but as you can see my camera was shaking like mad, so I'll get off that footage for a bit. I basically did the shaping on the belt sander. I held it on its edge and I just rocked it back and forth, making sure to try and get the curve as slight and as natural as I could. It turned out alright in the end, and some hand sanding finished it off nicely. Now it's on to painting. I really hate painting. I've had an airbrush for donkey's years now because I originally brought a little mini compressor to do sandblasting, so I'd sandblast like little glasses to etch the glass, and it came with a little airbrush kit and what have you, and I've never used it, and I thought doing the little like transition of the sunset from dark red to orange would be a great chance to try and give it a go. So I started and I applied the red first, and that went on okay. And then I went to put all the orange paint in there to do like the next coat, and the air compressor just wouldn't come on. And I presumed it was overheating because it has like a safety switch and whatever, so I left it for an hour, tried it, and it still wouldn't come on. And I thought I don't want to be waiting an hour between each like step of the paint, so I ended up painting over it white, and then I started painting it with a brush by hand again, and I hate painting, I've got to reiterate that. But I think it turned out okay. The colours blended quite easily, and I did the same for the blue areas that needed to blend from a light blue, almost white, to a deeper blue for the sky. And then I could also fill in the white letters and then paint the black detailing on the top. Now the same was true for the Keem Park logo that looks like a hand controller. I painted it all one base colour, and then I painted the detail colours on top of the areas that I carved. But the black detailing on the Keem Park logo was done with a felt pen. Much easier, much steadier by hand. I painted the letters with black paint, but everything else, all the outlines, the little details, the little like accent marks, that was all done with a black felt pen. And then it got spray finished with clear gloss lacquer to protect it all, to keep it all in place and just to make it look a lot nicer. I gave both of them 3 coats of gloss lacquer, sanding the surfaces between each coat just to make them feel a bit smoother. At this point, as you can tell, I'd kind of given up messing about filming with the painting. It was just taking me so long. So I went ahead and I cut 2 bases, random shapes, just to kind of carry on with the style of the trophies. So for the Warzone Wednesday, I went with an angular design, kind of picking up on the bottom of the logo. And then for the Keem Park one, I've kind of gone with a more rectangular kind of oval. It's kind of difficult to see, but they do the job, and I just needed the base on that to be a bit larger because, as you might be able to tell, I've ended up putting like a wire to hold the Keem Park logo in place because the original logo had got the wire coming out the back of the controller. So I bent some metal rod. I don't know what the metal is on it. I don't know if it's steel or aluminium or anything like that. I haven't got a clue. But it bent quite easily by hand, and I bent it into a rough shape to try and make it look more like an actual cable coming out a hand controller. And then I drilled a hole in the top of the Keem Park logo and a hole in the base of the stand, super glued them in place, and I used again the black pen to colour in the metal, because the metal was like a bronzy, silvery kind of colour when I sanded it and roughed it up. I did try acrylic black paint on it, but it just peeled off and it was a nightmare. But when I tried the felt pen, I tried to rub it off with my finger and it just wouldn't come off. So I thought, great. So with that on, sprays a gloss lacquer over the top and it's nice and protected. And I think it actually does look like a cable coming out the back of the controller. The base on the Warzone Wednesday one, I ended up adding 2 wooden dowels that are painted black to hold that in place and just to give it some distance away from the base. And I think that turned out okay, but my favourite really is the wire on this controller. These style of videos are much more laid back, as you can tell. I'm not doing full step-by-step tutorials on how to do these projects. I've got very similar projects to these on my channel already. A simple search for the Friday Fortnite logo will bring up the trophy that I made, and I also made the Minecraft Monday trophy as well. So if you're interested, name on my channel, go and find them. I want to say a massive thank you, as always, before I go, to all my Patreon supporters. Really appreciate all the support you show me on my channel. Honestly, I can't thank you all enough. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, make sure you click the subscribe button and the bell so you get a notification whenever I upload a new video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, and I'll see you on the next one. Day 6 are laughing instead of crying, and I'm queuing in my own house. 1 bedroom each, shut the door behind you. Isolation, good. Top of the stairs, 1 bedroom each, shut the door behind you. Isolation, good. Top of the stairs, 1 bedroom each, shut the door behind you. Isolation? No, they said I'm alright, I can just go outside. Oh, sure we've got isolation on the list. It must be wrong. Off you go then. No, I'm only joking, it's isolation really. Oh, you had me then. You know the drill. Up the stairs. I know. Top of the stairs, 1 bedroom each. That's it. Shut the door behind you. Alright then. Day 7 are laughing instead of crying, and it's Mother's Day. My original plan was to buy her a Rolls Royce, but because we can't go out anywhere anyway, I thought I'd spend some quality time with her instead. You having a nice Mother's Day, Mum?
Yeah, great.
I told ya, you can come out today.
Really?
Sunday dinner needs cooking. Cheers. I was worried how Mother's Day would actually turn out. Cheers, Mum. It's turned out alright, actually.